Aaron Harris mentioned, as accountants, that is a number one priority. Your books have to balance.
His big statement is, and Emily said it, the continuous close. Now let's talk about what that means. The concept that Aaron is delivering out there is that you're not closing at the end of a month or the end of a quarter. You're continuously on a day to day basis closing your books in a way that you have on demand information readily available to your organization to make decisions on today's information today. And that's what continuous close is all about. And that's what the power of AI, what the power of delivering from a software perspective, how we change this landscape and how we change being business owners and being business decision makers on a consistent basis. And the first time I heard the continuous close conversation, I was a little skeptical, honestly. I was a little skeptical because we've always been trained. We're going to do a monthly reconciliation. We're going to work, we're going to do our work papers against our prepaids. We're going to do this, and it happens at that moment. And it sort of flipped on its head the concept of what we do as accounting professionals. But if you really take a step back and think about what he's talking about the competitive advantage and making your organization different or a differential than your competition.
And it's amazing that we haven't gotten to this point yet with all the software, the software advancements we've had over the past decade, to be able to have that. But I've heard continuous close and rolling close kind of used interchangeably. Is that a safe assumption, do you guys think?
I would think I've actually haven't heard the rolling close as much. It's so I don't have as much insight from that side, but I would make the assumption that it's pretty similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. And one piece that really stood out when Aaron Harris was going over their continuous close concept and how they're approaching it with some of the machine learning and artificial intelligence breakthroughs that they're having. I have just a garbage memory, but this really kind of stood out to me for whatever reason. It kind of stuck with me in the sense that they polled 1,000 finance leaders, and the most common response they got is 25% of our entire team's time goes towards the close, working towards that close.
Yeah.
So if you can free up 25% more time from your finance team to focus in other areas to drive revenue or increase efficiencies, outside of that close, I mean, what could that do for the bottom line of the business or from a growth perspective for that business? That was something that really kind of stuck with me.
Think about the mid market. A 4-person finance team is a pretty good average if you look at your upper SMB, lower mid market organization. And if you talk about 25%, you're talking about one full head count. That's impactful. Now, everybody gets worried about talking about accountants. AI is going to take jobs away and everything else. But if we look at the stats, we're talking about 50%, or maybe it's more than that. I used to know these stats right off the top of my head, but 50% of CPAs are going to retire in the next 10 years or something like that. We're going to have a labor shortage anyway. We have to fill that gap from a technology perspective. And so, yeah, it's you hit it, Doug.
Well, then I also think you have to, it's hard to quantify in dollar values, like how much AI can help, because like you don't realize it until after you're 3 or 4 years down the road. But I think it's important from an investment perspective. Having AI in a solution and saving yourself, 25%, whatever that statistic was, Matt, will pay for the software too. Because we have to remember, Sage Intacct is a robust mid market solution. So having the expectations that it's going to be a little bit more than a QuickBooks or a Xero needs to be in the equation.